Maria. Maria.
Okay, let's dive into this deeply disorienting, universally shared experience of exhausted parents everywhere. We're going to uncover the astonishing science of infant sleep, and we're going to do it with a calm, reassuring look at what is actually happening in that little head of theirs. Look, if you're watching this explainer, chances are you're running on absolute empty. You're trying to make sense of why your little one wakes up crying at exactly 2 a.m., night after night, until all the days just kind of blur into one another. Well, we're going to unpack exactly why your baby does this. And I promise you, by the end of our time together today, you're going to look at those midnight wake-ups in a completely different way.
I want you to really picture it. It's 2:47 a.m. The house is completely blissfully silent. You're finally in that brief, precious window of deep sleep yourself, and then suddenly a scream just completely shatters the night. And I'm not talking about a normal cry. As a parent, you already know the difference between, hey, I'm hungry, and I'm a little lonely in here. But this sounds like pure terror. It looks like terror. Your heart is instantly pounding in your throat, your adrenaline violently spikes, and you rush into their room, frantically asking yourself, oh my gosh, was that a nightmare? Are they in physical pain? Are they okay? You scoop them up, bracing yourself to soothe a profoundly distressed child for the next hour. But then, the most baffling reality unfolds. Within minutes, or sometimes literally seconds, your baby is completely peaceful. Their little body just goes limp, their breathing deepens, and they're fully asleep as if absolutely nothing happened at all. Meanwhile, you are left staring into the dark, heart still racing, completely unable to go back to sleep, just wondering what on earth just happened in that room.
So let's start by looking closely at that 2:47 a.m. scream. Which brings us directly to the fundamental biology of infant sleep. To truly understand that middle-of-the-night scream, we have to stop looking at infant sleep through an adult lens. What looks to us like a sudden, completely random disturbance is actually a perfectly predictable expression of a brain that's developing at light speed. Think about it. In a normal adult, active REM sleep, which is that rapid eye movement phase where we do most of our dreaming, makes up maybe 20 to 25% of our night. But for a newborn, it is 50% or more. In those crucial first months of life, your baby spends half of their entire night in a highly active, rapidly firing brain state. And because of that, their sleep architecture looks wildly different from ours. They have these really short 45 to 60-minute sleep cycles. And those short cycles create so many natural opportunities for them to wake up in the night. Their brains are shifting gears constantly, moving in and out of different states of consciousness. It's in those fuzzy transitional borders between sleep cycles that their little nervous systems get momentarily tangled, and that often results in sudden crying.
You might be wondering, why on earth do they need so much REM sleep? Well, because REM sleep is the crucial installation window. Your baby's brain is literally downloading billions of pieces of new information every single day. REM sleep is the exact time when their brain files as memories, when it processes all those daily emotional experiences, and when it rehearses brand new physical capabilities. It's incredibly intense developmental work. I always say think of it exactly like a massive software update on your phone. It's running these hugely complex background processes that can only actually happen when the screen is powered off. So here's the absolute crucial point. Unlike adults, babies just don't have the fully operational wiring yet to contain all that intense brain activity. In you and me, our nervous system has a built-in regulatory layer. It actually paralyzes our muscles during REM sleep so we don't accidentally act out our dreams. But a baby's regulatory layer, it's unfinished. So that massive internal activation, all the intense neurological firing of that software update, physically spills over. It just leaks out. They twitch, they thrash, and yes, they scream. That scream we're hearing, it's quite literally just biological exhaust.
Now let's look at nightmares versus sleep terrors. This is a critical distinction, and honestly, understanding this completely shifts how we view those intense nighttime vocalizations. It relieves so much parental guilt, too. When we hear our babies scream in terror, we naturally assume they're having a terrible nightmare. But this phenomenon actually has a specific medical term. It's called pavor nocturnus, or a sleep terror. And unlike a nightmare, a sleep terror does not happen in REM sleep. It happens during the absolute deepest stage of non-REM sleep, which we call stage 3, or slow wave sleep. Listen to me on this. There is no monster under the crib here. There is no story-like dream content at all. Your baby is not reacting to a scary thought. Let's really contrast these two states so it's crystal clear.
Nightmares happen in REM sleep, right? They're driven by a narrative, and when you wake a child up from a nightmare, they can usually be easily oriented and comforted by you. Sleep terrors are fundamentally different. Because they happen in stage 3 deep sleep, the child is extremely physically active. They're screaming, they're thrashing around, sometimes their eyes are even wide open, but intellectually, they are profoundly asleep. Their little body has activated, but their conscious mind is completely 100% powered down. I know, this is the exact part that breaks a parent's heart, but it really shouldn't. When you run into that room and you wrap your comforting arms around your baby, and they just seem to look right through you, still screaming, still thrashing, it's not because they are rejecting you. It's not because their pain is beyond your comfort. It is literally because the part of their brain that registers your presence, your specific smell, your warmth, your familiar voice is physiologically offline. They literally cannot perceive you in that moment because they are in the deepest, most restorative sleep a human being can possibly achieve. Okay, let's move on to something we call the cortisol sleep trap. We need to dive into another major piece of this puzzle, which is why visibly exhausted babies fight going to sleep so fiercely in the first place. You absolutely know the look. The glazed, red-rimmed eyes, they're exhausted, you know they're exhausted, and yet the second you place them gently in the crib, they arch their little backs and just scream. Well, when a baby misses their natural sleep window, their ancient survival wiring kicks in. The nervous system misinterprets that severe fatigue not as a normal cue to sleep, but as a literal sign of danger. The brain thinks, wait, we are this exhausted, but we're still awake? There must be a predator nearby. We need to stay alert. So the brain dumps cortisol, the body's main stress hormone, right into their tiny system. Now your baby isn't just tired anymore. They've entered a state where they are totally tired and wired. I want you to think of it this way. Your baby's body is trying to go down a playground slide. But cortisol is friction. When that stress hormone floods their system, the actual physical act of letting go of consciousness becomes incredibly difficult. You are no longer just soothing a sleepy baby, you are trying to calm down a nervous system that is biochemically locked into high alert. And this isn't just a theory. It's backed by some truly fascinating research. A 2018 University of Virginia study actually monitored babies who consistently resist sleep. They found that these infants weren't just reacting to the act of being put down in the crib. They were generating an anticipatory stress response to the approach of sleep itself. Their bodies were literally treating solitary unconsciousness as a vulnerability, a true threat to their survival. It's their biological alarm system acting exactly the way it was evolutionarily designed to. Now let's explore object permanence and separation. Right around the 4 to 6 month mark, we see this massive cognitive explosion that heavily complicates bedtime. We really have to step back and ask, what is the baby's nervous system really so afraid of in that dark, quiet room? It's so easy for us to think it's the room itself, or maybe the crib mattress, or the lack of a pacifier, but the issue actually pivots right here from pure biochemistry into complex psychological development. Just as their sleep cycles are maturing, their fundamental understanding of the world is expanding in ways that make that dark nursery suddenly feel very, very different to them. Let's trace this timeline together. From 0 to 3 months, it's pure survival protocol. Solitary sleep simply feels dangerous to a tiny newborn. But then, at 4 to 6 months, object permanence begins to consolidate. They finally realize that when you leave the room, you actually still exist somewhere else. You didn't just vanish. And by 8 to 14 months, this blossoms into full-blown infant separation anxiety. They know you're out there, but they have absolutely no concept of time. So 5 minutes feels the same as 5 hours, creating a very real, currently unresolvable distance in their expanding mind. Now, this research from the University of Minnesota is going to turn your parental guilt completely upside down. They found that the infants who showed the most intense initial protest at bedtime were very often the ones classified as securely attached. Let that sink in. That intense protest, it actually reflects a highly responsive, deeply connected relationship between the baby and you, the caregiver. They're protesting because they know and profoundly love their safe space, which of course is you. Finally, let's move from fear to wonder. I want to reframe this entire nighttime experience for you to shift your emotional state from deep exhaustion to profound scientific awe. Think of your baby's nervous system like a shaken jar of water. All day long, they are absorbing a staggering amount of sensory input. The lights, the loud sounds, new textures, the complex geometry of your face when you smile at them. When you finally put them in the crib and turn off the lights, the shaking of the jar stops. But the water inside the jar, it's still swirling. Stillness on the outside just doesn't immediately create stillness on the inside. Their nervous system simply needs a little time and some physiological discharge to cross over into quietness.
And while they're sleeping, and yes, even while they're crying out in their sleep, exactly this kind of magnificent, complex construction is happening right under the surface. Billions of new neural connections are being fused together. Their daily emotional experiences are being carefully sorted and stored away. Their tiny nervous system is constantly rehearsing, practicing, and getting stronger for the next big day of life.
I need you to hear this. You are not doing anything wrong. Your baby is not broken. What you are witnessing in those tough early hours of the morning is a magnificently unfinished nervous system doing arguably the hardest developmental work in all of human biology. As their neural pathways mature, as the walls of their sleep architecture become more established and robust, the physical spillover will stop. The sleep terrors will fade away. This phase isn't something broken that needs to be fixed. It's an essential, beautiful process that simply needs to be finished.
So, I want to leave you with one final thought. The next time that 2:47 a.m. cry shatters the silence of your house and you walk into that dark nursery, I want you to just take a breath. Look at your baby not with eyes of fear or deep frustration, but with what you know now. Will you hear fear? Or will you hear the magnificent, messy sound of a little mind building its entire universe? Because I promise you, that's exactly what's happening. Hang in there. You're doing a really wonderful job.